Player 1. Time. Player 2. Level 1.
Hello and welcome. We've got a special edition here today, and basically I'm just catching everyone up with. There was a few things that were said about our interview at Bristol VGE. So this weekend with Mr. Sean Cleaver himself, and I managed to capture the whole thing on my old school GoPro that I've got. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be putting all of that on here for you so everyone can listen to it. Obviously it is shot off a GoPro, so it's not like as amazing quality like I would like, but this weekend Bristol VGE happened, Bristol's Video Game Expo. Myself, Nintendo Ollie and Timmy Triangle Face were down there. Ryan wasn't because he had a big trouser accident, so he couldn't be with us. So what I'm gonna do now is I'll clip to that footage I've got. So bear in mind it is all taken off this camera. This is something we will be upgrading as we do a lot of hosting. We interviewed a lot of people. I've also recorded our interview with Mr. Andy Davidson, the guy who created Worms as well. So that'll be a separate video coming up, and this is your chance to become a member. So members, you'll be getting this first before anyone else. As soon as I've edited it and put it all online, you will have it straight away. That is the perk of paying that £1 English towards our channel, which it all comes back to you guys anyway, because that's what the channel's about. It's about you guys. It's not about us. Like, I don't care about the money. I just want us to be able to get you guys some more giveaways. So if you're new to this channel, obviously, as you can see, I'm Blunners, and enjoy the content. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Okay, everybody, we are now going to have our discussions and a bit of Q&A with Sean from Blaze Entertainment, the creators of the magnificent Evercade. So, Sean, welcome to Bristol VGE.
Hello over there. Hello over there.
How are we all doing? You good?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Dosed myself up massively on Benelin, or whatever it is. Make sure I've still got a voice today, but yeah, no, all good.
Excellent. Before we get on to talking about Evercade and Blaze Entertainment and all the products that we do, it would be really good for us to sort of go right back to the very beginning, not of time, but just the very beginning, and sort of ask you, what was it that kind of got you into video games? Is it something you've been into since you were a child, and that's what sort of pulled you into this as an adult?
Yeah, child of the 80s, so I grew up in an era where home computers were everywhere, but it was very much second-hand home computers. So you go to school, you had a BBC Micro, you get home, you have a Spectrum that you got from the boot sale or something like that, and you get like those W.H. Smith books and Osborne books where you do your own programming and all those kind of things. So yeah, my life sort of started from that, and as consoles and PCs came along, and they started making really cool games of Star Wars and things that I liked watching on TV, and it just kind of came in, and it just sort of went from there really. And you know, one of the lucky kind of people that's been in the home computer era, the console era all the way to where we are now, and seen the massive sort of change that's happened with the gaming landscape, with computing, with everything, and been able to enjoy each part of it.
What were some of the first computers, whether that's home computers or consoles, what were some of the first ones you remember sort of playing and owning and sort of really enjoying as a child?
Well, definitely the ZX Spectrum, and I know I wind everybody up in public about the Spectrum, but the Spectrum was the first sort of home console that I had of any kind, outside of one of those little electronics kits, you know, that you always get. So the Spectrum was one of those things that it was everywhere, it was cheap, you could pour an entire can of Coke on it, dry it with a hairdryer, and it would still work, so you could do quite a lot with it. Especially when you're like 5 or 6 on a council house, sort of orangey brown carpeted floor, and you're just like, yeah, just muck everything about. But it was one of those things where the games were cheap, accessible, but also quite interesting and unique. And while everybody started getting into arcades and you had platformers, you know, the Spectrums at that time, so we're talking about 87 to 89, it was coming to the end of it, but people were doing a lot more with that platform. You know, Codemasters were releasing so many different kind of games, not just Dizzy and the racing simulators, and Elite had come across by that point and different things. And it was really showing that, you know, video gaming wasn't just clones of Pong or any of those kind of arcade kits. So it was just really, really nice sort of getting into those kind of things and seeing how people could interpret their gameplay differently. I mean, one game you'll never see again, but I love, is Rockstar Ate My Hamster, which Codemasters released. And I think we're promptly sued for, which is why it's never come out ever again. But it's one of those games where it's like, oh, it's a rock band management. Who thinks that's a video game? And then it's a really fun video game when you take the nick out of every single useful item at the time.
It's funny that you mentioned Rockstar Ate My Hamster, just purely because on our podcast we had Rick Waller of Pop Idol. It became a little weird in-joke on a podcast once where we were like, I wonder where Rick Waller is. And then we ended up finding him, emailing him, and it turns out he's a really big video gamer and a really thoroughly nice man. So we had him on our podcast, and he said one of his favourite games, like you said, that probably won't ever happen again, is Rockstar Ate My Hamster. So a game that I've not really heard of, and ever since then I keep hearing about it. So I think it's about time I checked that out.
Yeah, definitely check that out. And now there's, I think it came out for a few other systems as well, but now the Spectrum's out and you can load your own games on it if you can find yourself a copy of it. Then yeah, give it a go. It's stupid fun. And you can't really win. There's no winning in this game. It's just like, how long can I make stupid stuff? But again, it's the same kind of thing and the same kind of pattern you have now if you play a Pyrosoft game, like Game Dev Story or Pocket Story or any of those kind of things on your mobile. Same kind of concept, same kind of thing. You just put a bit of your own personality into there and then you just make a load of fun.
So moving on from sort of the younger days and the youth and sort of getting into adulthood, how did Blaze Entertainment come about? What was the catalyst where you thought, do you know what, I'm in. I'm gonna start this and we're gonna make something.
Well, I joined Blaze in 2021, so it was just after Evercade launched. So this isn't completely my story. This is also Andrew, who's our CEO. And obviously, if you're a fan of Evercade, if you've listened to the Retro Titans podcast recently, you've heard the story. An independent game publisher called PQ had purchased basically the rights to Blaze Entertainment. They had a previous company that used to do a lot of different things with PS2 cheat discs and lots of things like that under the name Exploder. And what PQ had done is they basically decided to get into retro gaming, and they decided to do these Atari mini arcades. And they wanted somebody to sort of market them, get them to the shops, get them to everywhere. And during that process, when my boss joined, he went, actually I've got a better idea. We'll do that as well, but here's my other idea. And Evercade was born out of that idea of having something that wasn't just one and done on the shelf, that you could just keep coming back to. And, you know, these new cartridges were nostalgic, and it meant that you were just constantly involved in it. So that sort of started around 2019, 2019, and 2020 we managed to release the thing. So my involvement then started just after it released, as the team decided to grow and then we needed more people. But yeah, during that entire part of our journey, it was very much, you know, we say cottage industry in the UK when we talk about game development and stuff like that, but it really was, during lockdown, one man in his house with stacks of boxes to send out to people and stuff. So
I'm assuming people here are familiar with Evercade. If you are not, I believe you've got some product here which we can show people.
Yeah, we have some here. So I mean, the brief 101. Evercade is a retro gaming console. What it does is different from most of the other things, is it comes with, or you can buy separately, cartridges which are officially licensed from the games publishers themselves. So Tomb Raider, Legacy of Kain, all the way through to Atari, all the way through to C64, Team 17, things that are on Amiga, things that are on MSX, arcade games which you wouldn't have got previously, or some kind of, not home conversions of them, actual arcade games. And the idea is that we bring these with you with a physical box and a full colour manual, and it's supposed to bring back how gaming used to be. We started, like I say, in 2020, we had a handheld device. Since then we've released a few more, honed it a bit, made it a little bit more high tech. We've released a home console which can plug into TVs, and last year we released the mini arcade, the Evercade Alpha, the little bar top machine, which has gone down very well as well. So we know we're not the only retro gaming company. We like to think we are probably one of the retro gaming companies in the world right now that's releasing new content and releasing products out there. So
just took that away from you then, Tim, just as you went in, so I will pass that to you. Because the product, it is really far-reaching, isn't it? It's not, it's born in this country, it's born of, I guess, like a British company with these sort of, the more British games that we sort of knew and loved growing up. But it does have a real far-reaching appeal. It's gone to America, it's gone to mainland Europe, it's gone everywhere, hasn't it?
I mean, this week is actually one of the first weeks that I sent an email completely in German. Just like not even to Germany in English, in German. So yeah, I mean, the appeal of where we sell is of course places where everybody had nostalgia for retro games, and that is mainland Europe, here, the US. We've seen a lot of people beginning to import this into Japan now as well. We have distribution in Australia. We're pretty much all over the world in some way, shape or form, and over the next couple of years we're really focusing on growing that even more.
So you've got a good range of different types of games that come out of Evercade. You've got a retro range, you've got a home console, home computer, you've got arcade, and you also have indie games as well. So how do you go about actually getting like the licenses for those, and then getting like those indie game developers on that as well, to create that sort of range of your red carts, your blue carts, your purple carts? It's got a lot of options now. So how do you go about collating all of those?
With great difficulty. But no, it's a lot of retro companies or people that own retro IPs and games that we all know and love, over the last 5 to 6 years have become a bit more in tune with what they actually own and what the value of it is. So a lot of times you've seen a lot of people re-releasing these classic games off of their back catalogue. Companies have done it for years, like Capcom and Activision used to quite a long time ago, and television have done it once before as well. But a lot of people didn't realise how much they owned or what the value of it was. So from that point of view, you just need to go and try and find the right person within those companies and say, can we have X, Y, and Z, or do you have a list of what we can have? Atari being the obvious one that's done this so many times, they have a big public list that you can actually see on Atari range of what they own and what they can license. Indies, it's a little bit more interesting because you're searching out for the indie games. Our remit is a bit different in the fact that because of the limitations of being a retro gaming system, we focus on games that are made for retro systems more often than not, so they're modern retro as we call them. So those things done in GB Studio, NES Maker, everything from hobbyists to small development teams to larger development teams. We're doing stuff with the Mega Drive and lots of things like that. So that's just trying to identify who's doing good work and then just approaching them and seeing what they can do. Sometimes it's very hit and miss. Sometimes you strike out, sometimes you get really, really lucky. Sometimes you just got to keep knocking on the door and be in the right place at the right time. And this year is definitely one of those years for that.
Also, you've got Hyper Megatech as well. Obviously, it's probably little handheld devices you've got there, which are so the Super Pockets. We've currently got 4 of them. Obviously, you've got other deals coming as well. So how do you look to get developers to lock their certain games onto?
So one of the interesting things is a lot of modern publishers, or publishers that have existed throughout all of these years, because they're so big, they have a lot of different gaming divisions. Some of it will be merchandise, which you can license, and see on t-shirts and mugs and stuff. But when it comes to their games, if you have it on a sort of distributable form factor, like a cartridge, it then becomes a publishing thing, which then becomes their gaming division, which most people are very protective of. They don't let you do that. So that's why there's a lot of companies that actually don't do physical releases and other things. They'll just do built-in devices and things like that, or they'll do it on a platform where they're already selling stuff like Switch or something like that. But for them, the Super Pocket is actually a bit more of an easy sell because it is a built-in device. It's a device that isn't too expensive. It's right in the middle, and that's why we launched it at that as a nice little sort of gateway area into retro gaming, so that if you wanted to just play games and play really, really cool games, then you could. And with the Super Pocket, we knew there was a lot of things that are around that £50, $60 price point, where you get 2 or 3 console versions of arcade games. And we thought, well, we've got a chance to do something different here and really shake up that market and introduce that. Did very well, and that's made a lot of people take notice.
And the other great thing with the Super Pocket is they do take Evercade cartridges as well. So if you've already sort of gotten into that market, or even if you haven't, if you just sort of go in at that price point of using the Super Pocket, you can then expand that library by putting in the Evercade cartridges. So it's almost got like a multi-function again.
It's one of those things that whenever you look at a library of what's on a system, you kind of always judge it by the things that you know and you recognise, right? So when you go on to buying an Xbox or a PlayStation, you go, oh, okay, has it got the Halo game? Has it got the God of War game? Has it got all of those kind of things? And people do that with retro game stuff, does it have this, that, or the other? And if it doesn't, you instantly disqualify it. What Super Pocket was able to do was get somebody involved in the whole system without needing to go, oh, this system doesn't have what I like on it because I've bought it for what I like on the device. What it's then got is another, like you say, with the Evercade cartridges, another way to experience new things. And because the value of the cartridges is like £20 to £25, you go, that's not that much of a risk for me if I buy something like the C64 collection that I had good memories of as a kid if I didn't like it. But then that starts and you end up buying more because, actually there's a lot of games that you liked that you don't remember, or because of the way that we package our cartridges where we only give you a small amount of games. Like we don't give you like 5,000, 10,000 games, we give you like anywhere between 2 and 20. But we really condense that experience, so you give the games more chance. Like you spend more time with those games and you actually discover what's fun about those games as opposed to just bouncing off 3 or 4 the same things you always touch on a different handheld and then just leaving the dust.
So you've got quite a lot of carts. There's more carts coming out all the time being announced.
Yes, don't remind me.
How many carts do you have now, and what is your personal favourite cart you've got out there?
I believe officially we're on 63 at the moment. It's going to be just under 70, maybe just over by the end of this year. My personal favourite is one that's actually no longer available anymore, which is the Codemasters one. That was always a good one. But I would say outside of that, the Galco arcade ones that we've got. Galco was a Spanish company. I don't know if anybody went to Ibiza, Mallorca, Barcelona, the Balearics in the sort of like the 90s on holiday as a child. And there was always these slightly adult arcade machines that felt like a little bit of a rip-off of real arcade machines, so that they had random stuff. They were all done by a company called Galco, who used to do gambling machines. And the Spanish absolutely loved them. I have good memories of those from going on holiday there. But they were kind of one of those things that was lost to time because none of those games were ever really ported across the PlayStation in that era or anything, and they were just lost. So what we were able to do with the help of a lot of the arcade community, who make all of these arcade ROMs emulatable, is bring those back from the dead, find out who had the IP for them, and make sure that we could get them working in the best way that we could, because they were always a little bit janky. But those cartridges are some of my favourites for that reason, is that they're fun games, they're unique games, but they're also something that shows the community trying to keep something alive for well over 20 years and succeeding. Now to the point that they're available to buy for the first time, I think.
Tim had a question, and it's just evaporated from his.
Probably because I've answered it. It's happened.
Anyway, so in terms of licenses, are there any licenses you've been able to get hold of, or any game studios which were like really chuffed that you actually got them to sign up to do something? Or were there any like really hard to get hold of? You said like you had to keep knocking on the door. Are there any that took a while to get, and then you finally got them in, and now they're out there?
Well, I mean, there's a few like that, to be perfectly honest, because when we first started this, we sort of always are knocking on the door, and it's not one of those things that we sort of haven't thought about anybody. You know, we will always try and have a conversation with anybody at Sega, EA, Konami, any of those kind of things. We always try and have those conversations. The SNK deal with Neo Geo, which we announced we'll be doing a partnership with at the end of last year, that was one we've been working on for a long time. So that felt really, really good to get that out there for everybody to see, and at the end of this month hopefully you'll be able to see what we've got coming from that. So that one was a good one. I'm particularly quite proud of a few of the suggestions that I made with some of the British teams. We probably would have got them anyway, but people like Gremlin, people like Revolution, who are just about to release Broken Sword 1 and 2 with us as well, but that was something we started chasing. We've also got a couple of other things this year that we've been working on for a while, which I can't say yet because I'll spoil later in the year, but yeah, same kind of thing, but we've been quite proud to get them over the line and find a way to do them. So.
I think the original 10 parts that came had a really good range of just everything. Like you say, it had Atari, we had Earthworm Jim, there was so much good stuff, and it was a really good like starting point for everybody that kind of came into it. I think when you released the EXP, which was the second handheld, and it came with some of the Capcom collections in it, I think that was certainly from my perspective, it felt like a real turning point. It was almost like, oh my god, we've now got licensed Mega Man, we've got Final Fight, Street Fighter 2, and these were again the arcade ports for the arcade games. And since then, it's the age-old catchphrase of never say never. In that, I think that for me was this point where we were like, oh wow, we genuinely don't know what could come next. And since then, we have had quite a few big like revelation moments like that. Duke Nukem was another massive one. And for people that don't have Evercade or anything like that, please pick one up. Get the first Duke Nukem collection, because that has a remastered, completely remastered version of Duke Nukem 1 and 2, and it's only available on Evercade. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a cheeky little exclusive, isn't it?
It's a great exclusive, because for me, and probably quite a few people, we grew up with Duke Nukem 3D, which is on that cart. It plays well, it looks great, it plays exactly as I remember it, but I'd never really played Duke Nukem 1 or 2. So what was the process of being able to actually get a complete remaster for that game? Like, how did that all come about?
Well, like so many of the things with retro gaming, a lot of it is due to the community that's behind those games in the first place that have kept them alive for so long. For those guys that don't know about the history of Duke Nukem, you probably need a book about that big of a legal code, because it's doing so many different IP battles, copyright ownership battles, lots of legal stuff behind it. And it got to the point that by, I think 2022, Gearbox and Randy Pitchford that owns Gearbox have basically managed to get everything, Duke Nukem, IP, games, everything, and finally brought all of it into his back catalogue. It was his passion project to get Duke Nukem Forever finally over the line, which he did in the early 2010s. What happened with Duke Nukem 1 and 2 Remastered is our head of development, Ryan, has always been big fans of those games. He grew up with those games and knew the people in the shareware community who've been working on making that accessible on modern systems. Because it's an old game, and much like a lot of the UK industry as well, games didn't really have any kind of logging system or pattern logging system with people's own development. So things like the source code that you need to make that game, long gone, probably in a dustbin somewhere in LA, just completely disappeared. So the only way to really do these things is reverse engineering from scratch, and that's what Lead the Guitar, Danielle Warder, it's what he's been doing for the last few years with his project, which was to rebuild those games from scratch for a modern PC system so that you could play them again. But he also added a few little bits as well to make it more playable on modern systems, so being able to encompass the fact that we use widescreen now rather than 4:3 and a lot of different things like that. So we got him on board, we worked together, and we said, can we actually port this to our device, because the operational specs aren't that big, and we could put all of these new features in it and make it its own working thing. So from that point, we were just able, once we knew that we could have a conversation with Gearbox about Duke anyway, we brought it to them as an offer, and they went yes. So from that point, we just carried on working and got it out the door. And then, yeah, like you say, it's really fun. It's one of our best-selling cartridges as well. So it's something that really announced us on the map of, oh, it's not just the same old games that everybody has all the time. They are doing something different. All this is unique about it. I don't think we entirely expected that it would still be Evercade exclusive 18 months later, but here we are.
And it is a really beautiful version of it, I do have to say, because you can switch between the original, so you can see the original playing on the Evercade hardware. Because I don't have an affiliation, I guess, for home computing too much, that version is I mean, it exists. But the remaster really is absolutely spectacular. I mean, it may as well just be called a remake, really, because it plays and looks to me night and day, and it is the ultimate way to play those games, I think.
And that's the thing about, everybody always looks at remasters and remakes and things that are going on and like, oh, why are we doing this again? Why are we doing that? And you can say, yeah, but maybe some publishers should be doing more to do new IP or original games or new games or things like that. But remasters and these kind of things are a great way for people to actually access the history of gaming, especially when it's stuff like that. And you look at all the great repackaging that Digital Eclipse have done with Atari, Jeff Minter, the Tetris release that they recently had as well. When you've got used to modern gaming, which I think all of us have, it can be quite a culture shock to go back and just see how, not inaccessible a lot of older gaming was, but just how quirky a lot of older gaming was based on what it was played on. And once you get into the hang of it, it's fine. But if you have a remaster that makes that entry curve a lot easier, then you can really access what was fun about those games. And that's exactly what Duke Nukem has been able to do with our version.
Quirky. I like the word quirky. It has so many connotations, and it kind of works with everything. The other thing that for me personally, and I'm sure other people that do enjoy the Evercade product, the thing that I find that I most enjoy about it is actually getting an opportunity to play things that I might have actually missed. There's a big market now for indie games, indie development, and there's so many of them that sometimes it's really easy to miss a genuinely great game. And I've found that through Evercade, the Indie Heroes carts, some of the dual carts, and even like the Full Void single cart, which is just Full Void on one cart, you really do get an opportunity to see some of these great games and great showcases from developers that you might have otherwise, missed. Was that something that you guys, Evercade and Blaze, decided, you know what, there's potentially a market for this as well?
I mean, yeah, right from the very beginning. I mean, as you said, in those first 10 carts that we made, one of them was working with Megacat Studios. Megacat is a US-based publisher. They find, again, a lot of these modern retro games and package them up and resell them, but resell them as physical. So, like a new Mega Drive game, you put onto a Mega Drive cart so you can play it on the Mega Drive. But you can obviously download them, play them with emulators and all those kind of things as well. So we reached out to them, and we really liked the look of a lot of the games on there, and we thought, well, yes, the retro is good, but let's offer something new. And the catalogue that was available to be licensed at the time was great. I mean, I can't imagine, even now, for all of the Namco museums, Atari Lynxes, all of those kind of things that we released back then, that Evercade journey wouldn't have been complete without a game like Tanza. Because without something like Tanza, like showing what the Mega Drive was and what it could do, and then people pick it up and go, actually this game is a lot of fun. And it's something you wouldn't even thought about discovering if you just had a normal retro gaming device or were just getting retro games packages on the modern console. So yeah, from the start we knew that was a way to go down. We then expanded it a bit more with the Heroes franchise so that we could bring some smaller developers who hadn't been published before physically into this kind of space as well, and we've just been going from there.
And you also offer Game of the Month on both the XP and the VS, where we were having the Indie Heroes cart, sort of getting each game each month so you can sort of try each one. How did that come about and why did that start? What made you go down that route as well?
There were a couple of reasons really. One of the reasons was because we introduced Wi-Fi into our consoles. And the reason we've introduced Wi-Fi into our consoles is so that we could offer updates a lot easier. You know, we are still a live console, so you know things change, things need to be updated, and everybody's feedback was we need Wi-Fi so we could just do it over the air and not have to hook it to a computer or anything. So we did that, but we also thought you kind of expect something with it. If you've got online, and always the questions are, can we have online gameplay, can we have this, can we have that? The thing we were able to do very quickly was go, well, we could give something like a demo or something like that, you know? And that became Game of the Month. And then Game of the Month became a way for us to populate the Indie Heroes cards and make them a more regular feature. So basically for every month of the year from April, a free game is on the consoles. When you update it, a new game appears in the next month, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the year, you can buy all those games physically. So yeah, it just seemed like a really, really cool way to kind of not only highlight those games, but highlight that part later in the year and give people something for free that they liked, really. I will say, and the news about this is going to come out in the next couple of weeks, so this is new news, but it's not going to be shock news. Game of the Month is being rested for this year, but there will be something in its place.
One thing we haven't spoken about really is the alpha and how good it is. I love it. I love the alpha.
Keep telling me.
No, it's
keep telling me.
Like when it first was like, didn't really know what to expect, but actually seeing one, playing one, and actually got my eye, it's brilliant. I just wanted to know what was like the process behind like the alpha, because I think it's a really, really good bit of kit, and like you said, it's got 2 slots, and it also gets the Game of the Month as well. So yeah, great.
I mean, when I was on the podcast with you guys in October, so this was just before the alpha released, you guys were like, what are you doing? I bet you guys, oh, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing an arcade? What are you doing an arcade? And everybody was doing it. We always wanted to do an arcade, and the name clues in our title, Evercade. You know. And when we first launched our 10 carts, everybody was like, oh, where are the arcade games? So, we'll get there, they're coming. So doing an arcade machine was always in the plan. It was just how we did it, what size we did it, what we could offer with it that made it unique. And the answer was always going to be simple. It's the cartridge system, and it's the fact that you can change games to any of those 60 plus cartridges and just play them and it's fun. Especially because the arcade market is really crowded. You know, there's a lot of people that have been there a long time. There's a lot of very similar devices with very similar licenses that are out there. So I mean, hats off to Capcom for licensing with us with this and being able to give us some new stuff, because you know, you look at America and you look at the machines that are available there, and some of them that are available here, those are like large numbers, large quantities of stock, really big licensing deals. And yeah, they saw something that was really good in our system, they went, yeah, we'll get involved in it. So hats off to them for doing it, because that gave us the leg up of making this thing look great and being able to have the built-in games that it needs. But also, yeah, it was just a lot of fun to sort of insert ourselves into a new market and see what would happen. I think it went down really, really well.
Is there anything you haven't done yet that you think you'd like to do? Because now you've got a handheld, you've got a home console, you've got an arcade cabinet, you've got a super pockets. What is there anything you haven't done yet that you want to do? Because you've got such a good range already. I
mean, there's loads. I mean, we've had loads of product ideas and trying to work out how we can do them. I mean, one of the things that I know has been mentioned among the community quite a lot is going to happen next with Hyper Megatech, because when we launched Hyper Megatech, the entire idea, not just for the Super Pocket to exist, but also a way for us to do things in retro or licensed stuff that isn't just Evercade or cartridge or anything. You know, we can experiment, we can do different things. So we're beginning to get to that point where we can start to experiment a bit more with those kind of things. You know, I'd love to do bigger licenses. I'd love to do more non-gaming licenses, so things like film and other media. Because I mean, there are games within those licenses, of course, but you know, that is quite difficult to find the ownership of a lot of those different things. But there's a lot of good games out there that are based on movies, so if we can get them in, that'd be great. I mean, we just have to look at what got announced this week, the Terminator 2D by the guys at Bitmap Bureau with the Xenocrisis. I mean, that's fantastic. That looks absolutely fantastic. So there's a lot out there that we could try and work with within those kind of scopes.
I was just going to get our money on Terminator, because we heard a rumour that something was coming, and we weren't allowed to be told what it was. And we're like, is it Terminator? And we were right, so good time. Yeah, off on a tangent, we do tangents, and we end up going down a weird rabbit hole. Yeah, we spoke to Mike at OLL 22, I think. He got stranded, so we gave him a lift back, so it's like a long way to come from Norwich to Southampton. And he said, oh yeah, there's a game we're working on. There's NDAs. He's quite excited, and I can't tell you anything else other than it's a big 80s license. And at that point, for about the 4-hour journey, we were like, is it this? Yeah, well, I can't tell you. You know?
So do you know who you're in the car with? Let's just reel out all the 80s licenses I know.
Exactly. We're just sort of saying things like Die Hard and just see what his eyes did. Like, no, okay, fine. But yeah, we did say Terminator, had a great poker face. But yeah, another side tangent. If you've not seen Bitmap Bureau's Terminator 2D Escape Fate?
No Fate.
Go check it out. It's going to be, yeah, I nearly swore. I'm trying not to swear. I'm terrible right now.
It's going to be awesome, and you know, those guys are great, and it's an example of modern retro that, you know, they've got their own engine, but it's their engine that they can run on multiple different platforms, Mega Drive, Neo Geo, Dreamcast, all those kind of things. And I mean, I don't know if there's anybody selling it here, but if you can find Xenocrisis, get it. It's amazing. It's a great game. Final Vendetta is another one of theirs, isn't it, as well? Yeah. Another great game. Always worth having a look out for. They just get the appeal of what made retro games fun. That in game development you call it flow. You know, the thing that just keeps you coming back into the game, keeps you, you know, in the arcade putting in the coins, or while you're online just pressing start and playing again and playing again. They've got that feeling nailed down. So yeah, they are a great developer of games regardless of the platform.
So Xenocrisis, as you just mentioned there, that is available on Evercade. That was one of the carts that actually made me make the jump to pick up an Evercade, purely because, yeah, I really wanted Xenocrisis. I'm a big physical media person, and for the price of buying the all-in bundle for the first 10 carts with Xenocrisis was still cheaper than buying Xenocrisis on the PS4, which I was like, well, this is going to work then, isn't it? And yeah, so ever since then it's been moving in. Are there any inroads with Bitmap doing anything else with Evercade?
Oh yeah, we have a good conversation with them. So I mean, the fact that Xenocrisis is still available to buy is a good indication of that, because it's probably one of our earliest carts now that was released. Yeah, it's just making sure that when things happen in the right time, we've got the right way to do it. You know, they've got a great catalogue of stuff, as we've already said, that we could publish now as well. So, you know, hopefully there's something we can do in the next 18 months or so. I will say though, our dev team and our art team might be a bit annoyed if we try and force in more parts, because we've got a pretty stacked 18 months that we've already booked out already. So
we'll get to asking you about that in a minute. If there's anything that you can or can't say, we'll just say a word and see if it makes your eyes better.
I've already kind of said one thing with we're replacing Game of the Month or something for this year. Andrew's already said that we're probably going to have about 15 carts this year, so we're going to have more carts than we've ever had before. We go through these years where one year is more hardware focused, like we did last year with the arcade machine and relaunching the EXP and VSR, and then we go through a very heavy cartridge year. But what we know is hardware sells cartridges, cartridges sells hardware, and becomes this great big circle that goes around and round. So the more good big names that we can get, we want to get them out. Which probably goes to show we've got a few big names this year that we're trying to cram in as much as we can into between this year and the start of next year.
The SNK announcement last year was a pretty big deal. Everybody's clambering and everybody's waiting for that showcase where we're going to see what's on the cart. Are there going to be other things? Are there going to be potential SNK Super Pockets or an SNK Alpha? Everyone's sort of really clambering for that. Is there a date where we're going to know what SNK stuff is coming?
Yes, there is a date.
Can you tell us the date?
The date that we've said all the time is late Q1, which would be about the end of March. So pretty much exactly the end of March. You can expect the return of the Evercade Showcase, which will... But yeah, if you like it, I could have said it would be on April Fool's Day, one day after. But yeah, we'll be announcing all the stuff we're doing with SNK and the OGA. We've been quite loose purposely because we want to generate that speculation as well. But nothing's off the table there.
It's going to become a new quote now. Nothing is off the table. We have never say never.
You've already used never say never back at me. It's the first time it's been used back at me. Like, oh yeah, no, maybe I should change that.
Yeah, so we've got never say never. Nothing's off the table. We need a third one to have like a little tripod of
right place, right time.
There we go. That's going to happen. Yeah. We'll give it another couple of minutes of us rambling, and then we'll open the floor up if people have some questions they want to ask. About the product or about development, or if you've got some questions about getting started in that, then start thinking now, and we'll come at you with a microphone.
Well, let me ask you guys quickly then as well, because obviously said you've all been involved with Evercade and you've been doing this now for 3.5, 4 years doing the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, what's kept you in Evercade all this time? Because it's one of those things that we love that there are passionate fans that are still with us, but it's great to know, what it is that keeps bringing them back to the party. We are obviously releasing cartridges all the time, but there's got to be something for you that you like that's going, yes, I'll have that.
I wasn't expecting that to happen. You've sort of hijacked the Q&A and turned it back. We generally ask questions. I think for me there's such a wide range of games that are available on Evercade. Everything from early Atari all the way up till things like Good Boy Galaxy, which is a phenomenal game which I just never would have played probably if I hadn't had an Evercade. There's just a real range and a real spectrum, but for me as a collector, physical media is everything. I'm slowly downsizing parts of my collections at the moment, but having a cartridge, having a manual, having a box, for me that, as I'm sure people here will attest, when you were a kid, that for me is when my experience with the game would start. You'd go to the shop and you'd have it in your hand, you'd read the back, you'd read the manual in the car, and for me that is gaming. So there's two things for me. So the fact there's a wide range of games, and also that you are representing physical media in an ever digital world. So long live physical media.
For me, I think it's firstly we talked earlier about things you might have missed. So I really like the indie games, really like the indie scene. I think one of my favourite carts was Alan's Awakening. I don't think I would have even noticed that game. It was like, oh, a new Evercade cart's come out, it's got Alan's Awakening and Cathedral. And it looked right on my screen. It's like, this is the kind of game I want to play. So I really like discovering indie games and also just supporting indie game developers through, proper purchases and licensed product. And also it's that community we've kind of built around it, because we're getting excited about old games that are coming out again, and we're all looking at getting the same one at the same time. So, what's the game of the month? We're all playing the same game. We're all looking forward to the next cart. We're all chatting about the next cart that's coming out. So, and these are games that we might have played years ago, and we go, oh, this is now coming to Evercade. I'm going to pick this one up because it's one of my old favourites or whatever. And we're all discussing it. So it's that community that comes with it as well. So yeah, these indie games and the community that surrounds the product as well. Yeah, I'll say mine's mainly like the discovery. So like the Broken Sword collection, something that kind of passed me by. And I played the first one, and it's just got that classic British sense of humour, like the jokes, it just cracks me up. Also, like I stick the same with indie games as well. That's kind of what got me in, because I was where I collect Amiibo, and I've got every single one. I didn't want to then start getting stuck into something else that was going to hear. So when I went around Ryan's and we played Indie Heroes 1, that's when I thought, oh okay, actually quite enjoyable, actually quite different games, I've never heard of any of them, and it's just that discovery. So for me it's mainly discoveries, things I've kind of missed growing up, but yeah, the nostalgia for it, and the community is amazing. If you haven't already, really look into not just our channels, but there's other channels out there, but the community is amazing.
Good answers, I like them.
Okay, we'll open the floor up now. We've got about sort of 10 minutes or so where we can take questions from you guys if you've got questions for Sean. So if you have a question, step up to, oh no, I can run around here.
Hi Sean, I'm Justin, Capcom Crazy online. I think we've spoken by email.
Hello Justin.
Hey, nice to meet you. Just wondering what the deal is with stock at the moment, because with Amazon I pre-ordered the Data East Arcade 2. I was very much looking forward to it, especially the Joe Mac returns, and still not about. Even the German version seems to have vanished.
Yeah.
Is stock alright?
Well, stock was fine, then too many people wanted it. It's one of those things that we knew things were getting more popular. We ordered a certain amount that we would normally do for these kind of things, and that wasn't enough. And of course, when it comes to reordering stuff, we're always quite proactive in reordering, but when we realised that it wasn't enough, and Chinese New Year hit, which shuts down everything for a long time, we just ended up with this period where we just couldn't get anything. Frankly, that period is nearly over, in two ways. One, stock is on its way, has been on its way for the last 5 or 6 weeks, and is due to come out between March and the start of April. So all of these carts will be released. Don't pay scalper prices at all. They're not disputing you or anything, they're just out of stock. The second thing as well is Amazon. Amazon has always been a bit of a pain because we're quite a small company and Amazon are quite a big behemoth. You don't get the kind of relationship or account management, and that ends up falling back on you guys of why is my order, why aren't Amazon communicating properly, what's going on. So we've been working behind the scenes with our new distribution partners that we've been working with, and they're taking over Amazon's accounting for us and basically trying to get that to a place where it's good. There's now an Amazon store page, there's all of these kind of things, so hopefully people's experience on Amazon is going to improve over the next few years or so. Good questions. Sorry about the stock, we didn't realise we were going to be so popular with it, and yeah, it will be coming.
I'm going to chuck in another thing that I like about Blaze here. The customer service is always good. If you have a question, you have a problem, get in touch with them. They do get back to you. You don't get that elsewhere. So.
Hey, so this may make no sense, so that's what I missed out 20 minutes ago.
Yes.
How do you consider the subscription model for the cards? So for a small discount, you then get each card each month or so, or something else, rather than buy them one at a time?
We have considered subscription models, and we keep coming back to it over and over again. Especially because one of the things being a nostalgic brand is fan clubs, and that kind of model is quite a nostalgic thing. The things of what we struggle to kind of work out what to do with it is what do you present with it, because you can buy the cards all the time anyway, and the subscription model is good, but it also means that if there are any delays, any issues, you're impacted having paid a lot of money up front and things get moved around and things like that. But what we can do potentially, and what we've always been looking into, is if we do a subscription and a fan club and that kind of thing, is what else you get with it? What added bonuses do you get? What's the value in there that we can add to that? And that's still a question we're working on internally, and we're always open for ideas and what we can do. A lot of the time, just to sort of put some history in things like this, a lot of these companies used to just send this stuff out from their own offices. We're on office number 2. We're about to be on office number 3. because of how quickly we've had to grow. And that's not just because the team has grown, it's also because we're just building up lots and lots of cardboard boxes of nonsense around us as well. So, when we've got bigger offices, more room to keep things like t-shirts and stuff like that in the office and things, maybe we can start thinking seriously about how we do a fan club, how we do a subscription model, what you get with that model, and how easily we can deliver that to you and give you guys something that's worth it, as well.
Questions, anybody? Anybody got some more questions? Repeat questions.
I was just wondering about repairs, because I brilliantly managed to just drop my Evercade XP from about this far to the floor and it damaged the top left button. And I contacted Evercade, and you're right, the help is really good, but they wouldn't help with repairs. What are we meant to do with repairs?
So, for the most part, we operate now within warranties, mainly because we've got so big we have to. So we go down a normal route. If it's within time that you can get it replaced from your retailer, you do that. If there's anything we can do to directly help, then we do. But again, because of the size of what we are, having to order spares would mean that we'd be surrounded by tens of thousands of LT buttons and things like that, which we just can't do. It's not feasible. I think it's one of those things that if we're unable to directly replace the unit, or if that's not an option or anything like that, we wouldn't discourage you from opening it up and trying to repair it yourself. Like, there's bound to be other ones available elsewhere which are broken or used on eBay or something like that, and you could just swap bits out and things like that if you're that way inclined, or if you know somebody that's that way inclined. I know we're a lot more hands-on with those kind of stuff nowadays than we probably used to be. But yeah, I mean, there's limits of where we can do, but our service team will always try and help. And if you went to our service team and said, look, I'm taking responsibility here, I'm willing to do this, can you just give me a quick idea how? I'm sure they'll probably be able to give you some kind of thing.
Related to that one, would you consider putting out the 3D files of those components like the buttons, so if we do wear them out and break them, then 3D print them ourselves rather than having it coming in?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Would you consider offering the 3D files of buttons, etc., things that are high touch can break and wear out, that if we do wear them out and break them, then just 3D print one ourselves rather than coming in?
Potentially, yeah, as long as it's not too much money or ridiculous amounts of stuff to have, because I mean, when we're producing these things, we produce a minimum order quantity, and when we're mass producing stuff, that's normally into the thousands.
3D printed files?
Potentially, maybe. It's something I could bring up. I'll be honest, it's something that's not come through to my attention for me personally. I don't know if it's come through to our support team before. I know we've had questions about CAD files and 3D files for people wanting to do their own projects and stuff like that anyway. Yeah, possibly, potentially. Yeah, something I could bring up and see what there is.
Okay, we've probably got time for one or two more questions if we have any more. We're going to go just down this end of Toxo first. Although you might have to come to me, I'm afraid.
Hi Sean. Well, there's been a couple of games that have had issues such as Cybernoid 2 and the Tennis one as well. Unfortunately, nature of updates can be an issue with updates. Double-edged swords with any company, to be fair. Any news as to how to repair those? Or?
So, yes and no. I mean, a lot of the issues that we've found with cartridges that have happened have actually been very, very localised. We've actually found that while there was quite a lot of noise about them, and certainly lots of different groups online, it was actually a very, 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 very small amount that were ever affected. And there is more often than not different reasons as to why they were affected as well. It wasn't just software or hardware or firmware or anything else like that. There was lots of different combinations to why these things happen. Some of the games in particular that you mentioned, it's hard to fix when the games aren't available, and that's the main problem. We have to then put in dev time to go back, reverse engineer, try and make something work, and then try and do it without breaking everything else that's already working within that game. So there is an element of, we will always look into it, and it's always on the list, which they are. We've got loads of new stuff that we keep coming through, but we also don't want to completely impact and break something by fixing something else. So it's one of the reasons, like, whenever we do a new firmware thing, it's always now in beta. There will be something coming soon that I think everybody's going to be very excited for, that they've been waiting for quite a while, but it does have the potential that it could cause a few issues. So that's going to be in beta, and that's how these things kind of work. But when things are available, as you know, we're always open. We'll always talk about, oh, hey, this is now fixed, or we've got this problem, this is now fixed. So I can't give you any timescales, unfortunately, but I can say that if we get to the opportunity where we can find a result for that, we'll go ahead and we'll obviously shout about it.
Cool. Thank you very much. We've got time for one more. You win.
Go ahead.
It will be quick. Just the extent of what you can do with emulation on it. Can it do Sega Saturn? Is Dreamcast completely out of the question? What's the highest you can get out of the machine? Have you tried? Obviously behind closed doors, not licensed. What have you tried?
Well, Dreamcast, I would say, isn't completely out of the question, but I think it's something that, to do it well and to do it effectively, you probably want to have a bit more horsepower than what we've currently got. Things that are 64-bit, we've done one N64 based release with the release of Glover, but that's always quite custom made as well, but we've had to do quite a lot of work to try and make that work properly. The 64-bit consoles, especially the Saturn, Jaguar, all of those things that have two separate chips are an absolute nightmare for any kind of system to do. So it is beyond what the Evercade and Super Pocket is currently capable of. In future, if there are new hardware iterations, maybe a lot of things need to happen in this space, I think, for a lot of these things to get better. The emulation needs to get better from the emulators themselves. As you know, probably haven't seen how all of these new consoles come from China, and they try and just brute force power into it to try and make these emulations work, and they don't. It doesn't work properly. And then you've got to make sure that the games are available as well. So the moment you start getting into 64-bit CD games, you've got video, you've got large file sizes, you've got music, you've got a lot of things that you need to get through and get done. So they're never off the table, but they're not the core focus at the moment.
I think that takes us about to time, so thank you so much for joining us as always. We always have a great time talking to you. We always appreciate your honesty with regards to your product. For people that do, or majority for people that don't know, Evercade, please go and check it out. It's a really great product, it's a really great company. There's a plethora of fantastic games for you to get involved in. Are people able to come and see you throughout the show?
Yeah, I'm going to be here for the next few hours as well, so yeah, please come and say hi and have a look at my wares. This Kajita has wares for you. Yeah, no, and yeah, just if you want to find out more about Evercade, it's online. If you want to watch stuff on YouTube, we've got our own YouTube channel where we do all our announcements. We do really good look backs on some of our old cartridges and what the games are like as well, so we try and keep everybody involved. There's a great community around Evercade across 4 or 5 different non-official groups and our official groups as well. It's probably one of the biggest and most active retro gaming communities for a modern retro gaming product. I always recommend go and listen to Retro Gaming Revival because you know they do every 2 weeks on a Tuesday.
Every 2 weeks, Total Evercade podcast.
Go and listen to that. If they don't have a guest on, they've really got some good people in there. These guys will talk about all the cool new stuff as well. Just don't talk to them about Portsmouth Football Club.
Thankfully, half of us don't like football.
Yeah, you're good over there.
The other half do. But no, Sean, thank you so much. It's always great to talk to you. Yeah, go speak to Sean throughout the day if you can, everybody. So yeah, everyone, Sean Cleaver.
Thank you very much.
We will be with you in the next minute or so. We will be talking to Andy Davison, the creator of Worms. Everybody loves Worms. That sounds weird, but everybody does love Worms.
I should have bought the Worms card. Should have bought the Worms card. Should have done that.
Should have. There is a Worms card. Make sure you jump on that.